Hey guys, so following on from last week about like imposter syndrome, I wanted to talk about the myth, if you like, of the late starter. So again, sort of falls into the similar sort of thing about not feeling like you belong, I'm behind, imposter syndrome, comparison, that sort of stuff. It sneaks into everyone's heads, and myself included, because when I was starting out in the gym, God, what would it be, like 25-ish years ago, CrossFit hadn't really begun by then, and even then when it started, it wasn't very well known in our country, certainly, to say the least. So, I always think, oh, I wish, but I can't go back, so, I deal with the cards that I'm dealt. And it's the same for you guys. You might think, oh, I should have started earlier, I'm too behind, to catch up, but remember, it's your journey. So just breaking it down, just reading my article here. So you've got obviously the comparison trap and falling into it. It's very, very easily done. It's not fair on you though. If you're comparing to someone that's been doing this for years, 10, 15 years, then it's completely irrelevant. It's not a fair comparison. It's like me comparing to Rich Froning. Not a fair comparison. He's a professional, I'm not. But also what you don't see is their starting point, the months, the years of the graft, the grind, doing the foundations over and over again and still doing them, the small wins, but also there are a lot of setbacks because there will have been problems, there will have been probably injuries, and then would have had to start all over again at certain things. But it's that quiet progress. But the truth is, in CrossFit, no one is behind because it's you. You're focusing on your timeline, your journey, your process, your next step. Again, you. The late start myth, sort of our part 2 of this article. So it doesn't mean you're starting wrong if you start late. It means you're starting with a bit more life experience, for example, like more self-awareness, more selflessness, and often maybe a bit more mental, like discipline and determination and grit. And some of the strongest guys here didn't start when they were young. They started maybe at the age of 35, 40, 45, maybe even 50, and they're smashing it, and they're still smashing it. Because progress, remember, isn't about age or timing. Consistency is the key. Working with intention, even if you're working around an injury, still working around that injury with intention and consistently showing up. Being disciplined outside of the gym, eating the right foods, drinking plenty of water, getting the right sleep, all that sort of stuff. So part 3 is about reframing your progress. So instead of thinking, what am I behind on? It's like, all right, so what am I doing today? What do I need to do today to get to where I'm happy with looking back at where I've come from, rather than thinking of this ideal? What's one thing that I can improve this week? Am I sleeping enough? Because if you're not, then forget about everything else. Just get that base right. And then if you are sleeping well, are you supporting yourself outside of here in terms of your nutrition? Because remember, even if you train in here 7 hours a week, which that's a lot, and some of you definitely don't do that, that's 161 hours outside of the gym that you've got to look after yourself, to contribute toward your goals. And how can you make that sustainable? By making one small little change rather than thinking I've got to overhaul everything. Progress isn't a race, remember. It's a nice smooth rhythm that will often be undulating. It's never going to be linear. It will be up, and then you'll have maybe a bit of a plateau, and then you'll go again, and then a bit of a plateau, maybe a bit of a down, and then you'll come back up. Like I said, it's not linear. And that's fine as well, by the way. Maintenance, I've said it loads of times before about Olympic athletes. They have a 4-year training cycle. They cannot be progressing all of the time. They have to maintain a lot of their training and their gains, because let's face it, you can't go forward all of the time. If you maintain your health and fitness for, say, 3 or 4 months around like a nice block of where you then go again, that's amazing. Surely you'd rather start a new training block with the level you finish that, rather than going, right, sorry, I'm just going to stop for 3 months and then you have to start all over again. That would be far worse. And then part 4, as coaches, we're not looking for essentially overnight transformations, because they don't happen. We're looking for patterns of like consistency, patterns of effort, for growth over time. We see the data, we see it, you guys in the gym, with how you're moving. It's nice that we coach the different times, because we may not see certain people for like a few days or a week or so, and then we see them and you think, geez, yeah, you're moving really, really well, or you've put on some lean mass, or you've lost some fat mass, that sort of stuff. That's what we look for, that consistency. So if you're feeling like you're a late starter or you're lagging behind, then just remember you're not starting late. You're starting when you started. You can't change the past. It's only focus on today. But also remember, if you feel like you are potentially lagging behind because, say, you're looking back and thinking, right, I was there and I'm now here. You have a goal and you've got a little bit stagnated. A, book a goal review session. We've sent out about those yesterday. But also B, just think, am I doing the basics right? Joe says it well, low hanging fruit, let's pick those first. Let's not try not to reach the nice big apple at the top of the tree that you can't potentially reach without falling off and breaking your neck. So the late starter, ignore it. Try not to compare. We've said it loads of times before, and it's not easy to do, but focus on yourself, folks. You're not behind, you're building. If you're being consistent and you're doing the right things, the basics, then just keep trusting it. We're proud as coaches and as a team to be part of your journey, and we can't wait to keep helping you in the future and obviously today. But otherwise, I look forward to catching up with you next time. I think this was the 50th episode, by the way. Wow, 50 hours or whatever it is of me boring you to death. Long live the next 50. Anything you want us to focus on or talk about, then please let us know. We're more than happy to do so. But otherwise, until the next 50, see you in a bit.